Hello family, in today's video we're going to get deep into the TCPA trading code, and today we are going to look at the left hand analysis where we access the strength of the previous or the past trend. So starting off with the legacy of the trend, excuse me, the market has a memory. Before we predict the future, we must understand the strength of the trend that just ended. This is the left hand analysis. We look at the legacy of the trend. Was it strong movement that was suddenly interrupted, or was it weak time movement? The answer tells us whether the next binary would become normal or inverse, because these are just the variables which we will be using to decode our normal or inverse, which we know is our binaries. In other words, today our main focus would be to look at this side. You see, be more focused on this side because this is a shift, right? So we have a peak, and on the peak we always have the right hand and the left hand. So today we are going to focus on the left hand side, and on the left hand side, like we know, we are accessing the strength of that previous trend. I don't really love to go deeply into the history. It's not important. You end up getting a lot of information which will confuse you. So a lot of times I just take the information just near the peak. Now, reading the pivot position 1, let's get into it. For our core consistency, we focus our analysis on position 1 of the left hand, the pivot bar. That's the pivot bar. You know it like that. You can call it the pivot bar, or it's position 1. It doesn't matter as long as you understand what these words mean. And I'm speaking of this when I'm saying the pivot bar. This is the pivot bar, this is the pivot bar, and this is still the pivot bar. Pivot bar, pivot bar. Thank you. I think you understood now. I've given more of the examples. There's nothing more difficult here. It's just the things that you know, which you are used to. That's why I don't point a lot into this. But this is the pivot bar. It's also position 1, position 1, position 1, position 1. This one becomes position 2. And remember, we are more focused on the left hand today because this video is for the left hand analysis. We apply the rigid pressure rules here. If the pivot bar shows strong pressure, like a long lower wick on a bullish trend or a no movement doji, we know the trend ended as high intensity. If it shows weak pressure, a shaved bottom, or just a shaved candlestick, and the opposing wicks and the opposing wicks, we know the trend is exhausted. See that thing? And in that way, you know that the pressure is weak. So in other words, what I'm saying, if you look at this bar, we have a long lower wick, and this is a bearish bar. So this is the opposing wick, and because of that, we know that the trend is weak. Now if we move on to this one, we have a long supporting wick. You see upper wick on a bearish bar. This is the same thing as when I say we have a long lower wick on a bullish bar, but this one is the other way around. It's a bearish bar. So the trend is still strong here, even here, even here. But here, because we have a shaved candlestick, then we know that the shaved candlestick is always weak. So this shows that the trend ended as weak. By choosing one consistent position, the pivot bar, we ensure data is never blurry. We look at the same point every time on every peak. Pivot point across. But if we choose position 2, still we need to be consistent on that position. I don't know why we would choose position 2, but for me I chose position 1. You can choose whatever you want. I've once used position 2, but I don't like it. So let's move on to the next topic, the, the advanced DNA of position 2 and expansion. While position 1 is our primary sensor, we can look at position 2 to see the flow of the energy. If position 2 was weak, but the pivot bar, which is position 1, gets strong, or if it gets strong, we have the expanding pressure. This tells us that the trend was accelerating right before it hit the wall. Now, speaking of this, if you look at this, we have position 2, right? The pressure is weak. Right here we have position 1. The pressure is strong. So this I can sorry. So this I can show you, this is the same thing as if I can do something like this. No, sorry for that. Let's say this is position 1, ps.1, ps dot 2 here. Sorry for that. So I'm sorry for that misunderstanding. Think of it, this pressure is pointing down, this one is pointing up. So in this way we have expanding pressure. Same thing which I've written here, weak plus strong. It is caused to expanding. Okay. However, for your daily trading, I want you to master the pivot bar first. You see, before you move to this advanced analysis. In the Euro USD markets, the pivot bar is the most accurate reflection of the current truth. It is the final signature of the old trend before the shift occurred. So I want you to focus on just analyzing one, the last bar, analyze its pressure, get away from using advanced ways of reading pressure for now. And let's move on now to predicting the binary. The left-hand analysis is the first half of our master equation. Strong left hand, higher probability of a clean reversal. Weak left hand is equals to, or you can say that shows the potential for a snapback or a ghost trend. It's like the trend, you know, they tend to keep on moving to the wrong direction before they move to, our predicted direction. By reading pressure of the pivot bar, you are no longer guessing. You are assessing the weight of the market. In video 6, we are going to move on to the right hand analysis, where we are going to use the trigger bar to finalize the prediction. Now, getting back to, I don't really want to, in terms of predicting the binaries, you'd get to see that once you are trading yourself, because the time frames are different. Maybe you're going to be comfortable trading the 1 minute time frame, but it operates the slightly differently from a 5-second chart. So for me, I can tell you right now that if on the left hand side you have a strong, on the left hand side, if the previous trend closed as strong, now you have the highest probability of a clean reversal. And a clean reversal, I don't mean maybe this bar going or moving this direction to the lower side. No, 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 no. I don't mean that, because this can occur on an uptrend, you see. So in this way, this would be a trend continuation. It can also happen, the same case scenario, let's say it can get a very long downtrend. Then this would be, yeah, the reversal, obviously. You see that thing. And this bar also, it can be zero moving down. It can also be zero moving up. It depends on the analysis of the right hand. We have the right hand analysis, even though we haven't actually talked about it. But in the next video, like I said, we'll get into analyzing the right hand. Now, on the right hand, we will have the positive and the negative. Those are the other variables which changes everything. That's why the binaries now, we can have this, the same thing that you see here, whereby the price moves consecutively in an up direction, you know, within that specific time frame, and still get a zero. And we can also have a case scenario whereby this bar now, it's bearish but still get a zero. It's just the combination of the left hand and the right hand. You see, left hand analysis, you want to get a strong trend after your analysis, or a weak trend, it doesn't really matter. But let's say you get a strong trend like here. Right hand analysis, you can either have a negative peak. A negative peak is the same peak as this one, it didn't break the low. Or we can have a positive peak whereby it breaks the low. But if you have a negative peak like this one, then the context of this peak, this is a trend and this is a peak after trend, so this is a vertical trend. And the output in this case would be 0 bi. So that's it about the binary outputs. You know, the more you practice this, the more you learn how to spot the pivot bar, the shifts, and knowing how to read the pivot, the pressure from the pivot bar, is the more these things become simple for you. So stay focused. The pieces are coming together. You are becoming an elite engineer.